Hey guys, welcome to Little Helpful Files. My name is Lindsay and we do cash budgeting and savings, a little bit of life in general, all through the glory and by the grace of God. So in today's video, we are going to be discussing HELOCs. If you guys saw my video a couple weeks back, I asked if you all would be interested, and I definitely have had a lot of you that are interested in learning more about this. I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of our process of how we found out about this and what it has been looking like for us. Now, I do just want to make a disclaimer that I am not a financial advisor by any means. I am just a mom who is giving you kind of my personal take on this. It is more just for entertainment purposes, and I highly encourage you guys to seek the Lord in your own pursuit and journey, and to also do your own research and kind of find your own way through this. I just want to shed some light on some things that I have found to be really interesting through this process. Let's go ahead and kind of unpack and break this down, and I'll go through really how I found out about all of this and what this means. Okay, so first and foremost, a HELOC is a home equity line of credit. Now, I had heard about this in terms of like a second lien position HELOC, or something that you are basically taking out equity within your home, but you have a mortgage. Well, about maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago, I started to see videos, and it was all about, being able to pay your home off faster. And of course, through this process, through the Lord teaching me how to steward my finances, He has really put this desire on my heart to not be in debt and to do what I can to try to get out of debt and to stay out of debt. So we knew that we wanted to buy a house at some point. We were renting, but we also were hesitant about taking on another mortgage because, a mortgage is a very, very, very long-term debt commitment. So I do feel that, again, the Lord uses different things to bring wisdom into your life and to kind of help you to think outside of the box. So that's something I want you to remember as you're listening to this. Think about before you started cash budgeting, or maybe budgeting in general. It was something that you had to really think outside the box to understand and to start doing a whole new system, right? So for me, I had never used cash before. I had never done cash budgeting. So when the Lord was showing me these options of how I could get a hold of my finances, it was something where I had to be open to a whole new way of learning and a whole new way of going about my finances. And this is very similar in that. So for those of you that have kind of gone through that before, I feel like this will be easy to understand, that you have to sometimes go against the grain, maybe go against what you had been taught, maybe what society tells you. Sometimes the way of the world is going to be different than the way the Lord encourages us to live. So, as I was learning about this, I started seeing more about a first position HELOC. So a HELOC, like I said, it is a home equity line of credit. I started to learn a little bit more about velocity banking. I really didn't understand a lot about it, and I was very, very hesitant, but I was also intrigued because I was hearing these stories and I was seeing these videos of people that were actually paying off their house in maybe a third or a half of the time that you would normally take to pay a mortgage. So different things as I was kind of going through and learning this, and I of course shared this with my husband, and we started to dive in a little bit more. There's a channel called Replace Your Mortgage, and this is how we first started to kind of learn and find out about this. And I thought it was very interesting because, again, we were in the process of looking for a home, had not bought it yet. The market was crazy, and this actually sounded like something that could make buying a house a little bit more attainable or achievable for us in our current financial position. So I do just want to give you a couple different tips. I have my notes here, so I keep looking at them. There are a few things. If you're looking at a first lien HELOC, you are going to want to have a pretty decent credit score. So you have to have, I believe, 680 or more, and don't quote me, that could be different now, but you do have to have a pretty good credit score in order to qualify. You also really want to be good at sticking to a budget. You have to be very aware of your finances, because a lot of this is a cash flow concept. So if you have really negative cash flow or no cash flow, it's going to be very hard to achieve what you need to achieve with this system. It's also better if you have a lower debt ratio. It's not impossible. And there is another channel I'm going to recommend, Christy with Fantastic Finances. So I'm going to be putting both of these channels down in a comment that I will pin. They have been a big part of my learning process, and Christy they're both believers. They're both brothers and sisters in Christ, which is awesome. Christy has been a really awesome asset just in terms of not only a first lien HELOC, but just velocity banking. So I highly encourage you to go watch some of her videos. She is all about helping people. You can tell the Lord has really been working through her to just try to help people rethink the way they're going about their finances. I would definitely recommend checking out some of her videos. She'll go into more of like HELOCs, which is a personal line of credit, and using credit cards. And then of course you have HELOC in a second lien position. So with a first lien HELOC, you are going to need to have about 10 to 20% to be able to pay down. So loan value ratio has to be like 80 to 90%. We were able to find a bank that was offering it at 90%, so we only had to have the 10% down. But again, this is something where you're going to want to try to partner with somebody or a company that knows what they're doing, that can give you some of these resources that have done the legwork for you. So Replace Your Mortgage was one where they have already done a lot of the work to find banks that will give you a first lien HELOC, and that will also have a better ratio in terms of how much you have to put down. The good thing with a first lien HELOC too is that you don't have a ton of closing costs like you normally would with a mortgage. So again, I highly recommend kind of looking into this, doing your own research if you are interested or curious about this. And it is really interesting because the way that this has worked and the way that we're seeing it set up, and trust me, I prayed so much through this whole process as I continued to ask the Lord to guide us through this. And even when we were going through the approval process of the first lien HELOC, I was like, oh my gosh, is this the right thing? Because it's different, it's different than what other people are doing. It's different than what you normally hear. So it seems scary. But the Lord continued to reassure us and continued to ask us to trust Him. So I'm grateful that we did, because this actually works like a checking account. So your first lien HELOC becomes your checking account. And that was really weird for me because I was all about having, my money in my checking, and then I would have my money in my savings. And with this person that we worked with at the bank was like, you really need to put all of your funds, like all of your paycheck, is going to be going into the HELOC. So your checking account is going to be sitting at zero. I would be happy to go more into this if you guys are interested in another video. I can kind of unpack that more. But right now I'm really just trying to get you guys to understand what a first lien HELOC is, what velocity banking is, and how it can help you alleviate your financial situation. You're going to be using that to pay off your bills. So your payments are going to be going in, and that's kind of satisfying the payments needed. It is also allowing any extra or any cash flow to be attacking it, because the way a first lien HELOC works is by the daily average interest. So it is different than a mortgage. There's no amortization schedule. It's actually being recalculated every single day. So the more money that you can have sitting in the HELOC to have a lower balance for a longer period of time, the better off you are. So I really like this because it allows you to have access to your equity instantly. So that was one of the things that I struggled with getting a mortgage, is that I knew that our funds would be tied up, and the only way to get them would be at some point to refinance. And with refinancing, unfortunately, you end up paying more closing costs, and it also restarts your clock with your payoff time frame. So I really liked that we would be able to have access to our money. We would be able to have instant access to that equity that is sitting there. So that's awesome. It also is really motivating because you see your principal going down. So whereas with a mortgage, it's all front loaded with the interest. So you're paying a majority of the interest first. It takes a very long time to actually see your principal really go down. I know in our last home, we had it for about 5 years, and I think only maybe $15,000 or $20,000 is what we had paid down on the principal. And we've already paid that on our HELOC so far. So it's really motivating to see that your principal is coming down. And again, this is because we're putting all of our income into that HELOC account, acting as if it's our checking. So the money is sitting there, and then when things need to be paid, we are paying out of the HELOC. So yes, the balance will go up, but overall throughout the month, our average balance, our average daily balance will be lower for the most part. So it is really nice because we also only have an interest-only payment. So that is one thing that is very common with a first lien HELOC. A lot of the time you can get it to where it's just an interest-only payment. So anything additional to that, it's all just going towards the principal. I really, really encourage you guys to look into this if you are struggling or if you are feeling overwhelmed by your debt. Like I said, check out Fantastic Finances. Christy goes through a lot of awesome examples of how you can not only take like your mortgage and your house debt, but you can actually take other debt and use the same concept with velocity banking. Now, personally, I struggle with credit cards. She does teach how to do that on a credit card. I prefer actually using the line of credit just because to me it works the same like a checking account. So all the bills that we were already paying in our checking account, I'm just paying them the same way with the HELOC, right? If you tend to overspend on a credit card, that is something you are going to have to be mindful of if you start utilizing this system and this process. So just keep that in mind. But overall, being able to utilize that line of credit and kind of becoming your own bank is a huge advantage. And instead of your money just sitting in a checking account doing nothing, I mean, think about it, guys, it's really gaining no percentage. It is just sitting there. This way allows you to make your money work for you. So it takes all your hard-earned dollars and really puts them to use in a whole new way. So for those of you that have loved cash budgeting and want to account for every dollar and you budget down, like the zero-based budgeting, budget down to every penny, this is something where I feel like you're gonna start to look into it and be like, wow, this is eye-opening, because you are truly being able to then make your money work instead of just sit there. So I hope that this video blessed you guys. I hope that this gives you a whole new perspective to start thinking about for 2024. And I highly encourage you to check out the other channels that I recommended. I am not affiliated with them by any means. I just have found them to be very informational. If you guys would like to understand more about this process, more about how we've been kind of paying and doing the HELOC and how it's set up and all of that, I'd be happy to go into this more. Please just leave me a comment and let me know. Sometimes when you are trying to learn or wrap your head around such a new and different concept that is not of the norm or not common, it can seem very scary and daunting. But I highly encourage you to seek the Lord's guidance through it. He is so wonderful and faithful to help lead us and guide us, especially when we are asking Him how we can better steward the things He's given us. And I think that if you go to Him with this and you continue to ask for His guidance, you will find that it is much more attainable and achievable. And I think that you'll be very pleased with the results that you could get from doing something like velocity banking. All right, guys, I am so grateful that you all took the time to watch this video. Please make sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. And I will look forward to seeing y'all in a video soon. God bless.